All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to dig into a topic that's, well, fundamental to every society, but one we probably don't think about enough. How do you actually own land? We're going to explore this whole idea through the really fascinating and complex history of Uganda, where the answer to that question is literally written into the soil.
I mean, it seems like a simple question, doesn't it? But the answer, wow, it gets shaped by so much. History, politics, power. Is owning land just having a piece of paper? Is it about putting up a fence? Or is it a right that's been passed down for generations? Well, for Uganda, the answer is especially layered. And this is where Uganda's story gets super interesting. When the country gained independence, owning land wasn't just one single concept. No, it was a reality that was shaped by three totally different histories, which created three completely separate paths to ownership. You had one path drawn up by colonial rulers, another that was negotiated with local kings, and a third that was paved for everyday people. So, let's break down what these paths actually led to.
But before we walk down any of those paths, we need to know what the destination is. We've got to be on the same page. What in the world is a freehold? Okay, this right here is the absolute core idea. Unlike renting or leasing something, freehold is pretty much the closest you can get to absolute complete ownership. The two magic words from the legal definition are perpetual existence and full ownership. What does that mean? It means it doesn't expire and you hold all the rights. It's yours, period. So keep that definition in your back pocket as we explore the first path. All right, with that definition locked in, let's look at path number 1 to getting a freehold title in Uganda. This one was a direct grant from the British colonial administration. So picture this. It's the early 1900s. The colonial governor basically had the power to create a landowner out of thin air, just by granting them a freehold title. Initially, this power was used to give land to Europeans. And just like that, with the stroke of a pen, a whole new class of landowner was created. Now, that specific policy was eventually stopped, but you better believe its mark on the country was already made. So the next path to owning land wasn't some top-down grant, not at all. It was actually forged through negotiation, which created this blend of British ideas about land and the very real power of the local kingdoms. Now, this type of freehold was, as the source material puts it, kind of peculiar. And for good reason. It only existed in the kingdoms of Toro and Ankole. In these places, the British didn't just hand out land. They made formal agreements to set aside huge territories as private property for the local kings and their chiefs. And when I say huge territories, I'm not talking about a few plots here and there. We're talking about a staggering 255 square miles. And that's not the total. That's in each kingdom. Just try to wrap your head around that. This wasn't just some nice little gift. It was a complete reshaping of power and wealth in those areas. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. There's a crucial layer of complexity. You might think these new freehold owners had absolute power, right? Well, not exactly. A law in 1937 actually stepped in to protect the people who were already living and farming on that land. These so-called customary tenants were given permanent inheritable rights to occupy the land. They couldn't just be kicked out. That created this fascinating and probably tense balance of power between the new official landlords and the people who had always been there. So let's recap. We've got land granted by the crown and land agreed upon with kings. The third and final path? It was different all over again. This was a modern government plan designed specifically to put land titles directly into the hands of individual Ugandans. Back in the mid-50s, the government launched a pretty radical new idea. They set up these pilot programs to help individual Ugandans register their customary land and get a formal freehold title for it. The big goal here was to modernize the whole system, to move away from shared, traditional ownership and towards documented individual ownership. And that, my friends, is a huge cultural and economic shift. But this idea wasn't exactly an instant hit. The first reaction was pretty much rejection. And that makes sense, right? When you try to change something as fundamental as how land is owned, you're bound to hit some resistance. Over time, though, the idea started to take hold. People began to see the benefits, they started registering their titles,
And that's how this third and final type of freehold came to be.
So, there you have it. 3 very different paths: colonial grants, kingdom agreements, and modernizing schemes. But they all lead to the exact same destination: freehold tenure. Now, to really hammer home why this matters so much, let's put it side by side with the alternative. The crucial difference really clicks when you compare freehold to its common counterpart, leasehold. A leasehold gives you exclusive use of the land, sure, but, and this is a big but, only for a specific amount of time, say 49 or 99 years. Think of it like this. Freehold is owning the book forever. It's yours. Leasehold is just borrowing it from the library for a while. It's that perpetual existence that makes freehold the ultimate form of land ownership in this system. And that really leaves us with a final thought. This whole story of Uganda's 3 freeholds, it's not just some dry legal history. It's a story of colonialism, of negotiation, of tradition clashing with modernization. It reminds us that the answer to that simple question, who owns the land, is never, ever simple. It's a living history being written line by line, deed by deed, onto the very soil of a nation. Kind of makes you wonder, what does the story of land look like where you are?